right, today we're going to talk about panel. So panel is short for panel discussion, and it is one of our 14 speech events. It is an IHSAA A event. So at districts, you do both an A event and a B event. Panel essentially is a discussion, and a panel discussion is one of the basic types of discussions talked about in most basic speech classes or communication classes. And we have decided to make it a competition event. I don't particularly love panel because I think a discussion is not supposed to be competitive. A discussion is supposed to be collaborative. And by making this a speech event, we're trying to make a discussion competitive, which is negative, and it can really hurt your discussion. So it's an interesting event. However, we want to do well at it at state and at districts, and so we're going to learn it. And my goal is to watch these panels and figure out who has the strongest panel discussion skills and send those people to districts. So first off, a panel discussion is 40 minutes long. So you don't do individual speeches that are timed. It's just a whole round that's grouped into a 40-minute segment, and you have a judge. So the rules for panel state that panel members do not make formal speeches, but remain seated and discuss the topic informally. Notes may be taken during the discussion, and you should take notes during the discussion so you can reference them back. Kind of like what you do in a Congress round, you reference other speakers, other representatives. You should do the same in a panel round. Emphasis is on problem solving through working towards group consensus. So all coming to the same agreement on something. Panelists should be familiar with the topic and be prepared to discuss facts and opinions. Contestants may bring a pen or pencil and research, which is limited to 1 page, one-sided, 8.5 by 11 to the round. So you're allowed to bring 1 page of notes. On those notes, you should have some research, but particularly during your research phase, you should define the terms in the topic. You should figure out what types of problems are associated with this topic, ways to solve that, maybe some benefits or drawbacks of your topic or both sides of the topic, and examples. So examples coming from other schools that have tried to do this topic or places in the world that have tried this. Examples are really good, especially if you can have new and unique examples that other people don't bring up. That's going to make you stand apart. So in panel, you're given topics, and every round you have a different topic, and you get those topics before the tournament. So our topics will be the same for both districts and state. The rules state that a list of topics will be collected from coaches at the fall ISATA conference that will encompass topics tournaments will use throughout the season. Additionally, 5 topics to be used only for district and state tournaments will be selected and voted on by the IHSAA for the ISATA members prior to these tournaments. So we have 5 topics that you will research and do for districts, and I will post them below. Topics range really anywhere from doing Idaho's youth should find ways to combat bullying. That could be a topic, and you need to talk about it for 40 minutes. And so there's a lot of different aspects to that topic you need to discuss and get to the bottom of. So a couple things to note while doing panel. The first is you need to have organization. Organization is key in panel. So you don't just talk about the topic. You organize the topic at the beginning of the round, and then you go that way. So at the beginning of the round, we might say we should organize this round by first talking about all of the problems associated with this topic, then all of the solutions, and then ways that we can take it outside of this round. I don't know. Or you can say we're going to define terms and then talk about the problems and then talk about the solutions. Or you can say, let's talk about what this topic is. Let's define it as a whole point. And then we can talk about benefits and drawbacks to doing this. So at the beginning of the round, you all need to agree upon how you're going to organize the round. And then it's really important that you stick with that organization. So I would never be this is a problem, this is how to fix it right away. I'm going to do this as a problem, and this is also a problem, and this is also a problem. And when all the problems are done, then I'm going to talk about the solutions. So it's really important that you stick to that organization. The next thing is you really do look good to your judges if you can bring up new ideas. If you are not just repeating what other people are saying, but you're bringing new ideas that are helping to further the discussion, continue it, and make it stronger. You can bring new examples, information that's important, that matters to us. That will be what matters. Additionally, one of the ways you win at panel is becoming the leader of the group. So there's usually 6 people, and you sit in a semicircle so that you can kind of see everyone, and then the judge sits in front of you so they can see everyone as well. And you're talking to your fellow panelists, but you do want to also make some eye contact with your judge occasionally. You all start with what's called an opening statement. Your opening statement is going to be maybe 30 seconds, maybe a minute. And in that, you're going to say things you're looking forward to in the topic, why you think we're discussing the topic, ways in which you think we should organize the round, and any other additional details. A lot of times in this opening statement, people get caught up in like old procedures of panel. So they'll say, we should do the pen rule. And that's all they talk about. The pen rule is where people like raise a pen if they want to talk. That doesn't matter. Like, that's not what the opening statement is for. So even if you see people doing that, you could say, I agree with everyone being able to speak, and we should be courteous of that. But let's look at the topic, and then you give your opinion on it. You say like why we're looking at this topic, different ways we can organize around, those types of things. It's important in panel that you don't just do what everyone else is doing, but you're trying to make yourself stand out, be organized, and seem like you know what you're doing. The last thing you want to do is you want to make eye contact, and you want to reference your fellow panelists by name. So I'd say, thanks, Allie, or like, I agree with John's point when he talked about blah, blah, blah. So I'm making eye contact, I'm referring to them by name, and I'm also like looking at my judge occasionally so that I'm connecting with them as well. So before the round starts, it's important to write down everyone's name on your sheet of paper. You could draw your semicircle and place everyone on the semicircle with their name, how they're sitting, so you remember everyone's name and you don't get it incorrect. It's important that you also get their pronouns correct. So when you ask their name, you can make sure to ask their pronouns as well. It's just a sign of respect by calling somebody by their pronouns. And that's also a way that we follow the NSDA honor code. Okay, so there's some like information about panel. So this is kind of how panel round will work. You'll go into the round, you'll move your desks into a semicircle in a normal non-COVID year. And then you will ask everyone's name, get their pronouns, and then when the judge is ready, they'll start with opening statements. So normally they'd start with one side of the semicircle and go in order with opening statements. And again, those opening statements really give your position on the topic, introduce you to the rest of the group, etc. So they'll do your opening statements, and once opening statements are done, then you want to establish the organization of the round. Take notes on what everyone says so that you can incorporate those things. If you could be the first one to speak and to set that organization, that's going to make you start to stand out as a leader. So Johnny's finishing his closing statement. Finishes, and I would say, all right, thank you for that statement. Thank you, everyone. I'm hoping we can set some organization before we get started. So-and-so said they wanted to organize it this way, but this person said they wanted to organize it this way. Does anyone else have any other opinion on that? And then we would we'd set our organization, and then we would say, okay, let's talk about the problems. And then we'd all start to talk about the problems. As soon as they're exhausted, or as soon as maybe time is running short for that segment, then you can move on. So if you have 2 organizational points, plus your opening and closing statements, each of your points should be about 15 minutes long, and then opening and closing statements take like 5 minutes each. If you have 3 points, then each point would take about 10 minutes long, and then opening and closing statements take about 10 minutes each. So paying attention to the time will also help you to help move your group in the right direction. In our COVID year, you'll all show up on the screen. Make sure that you still say your name and your pronouns. You might want to consider like having a name tag or like putting a nameplate down or something so that everyone can see your name the whole time. But I think as long as you get names and you know who is who, then you should be fine. And then with COVID, because we're online, it's especially important that you're not talking over each other, because then we can't hear anyone. And so making sure that you are being really courteous as to when you're speaking. Maybe that means at the beginning you need to set up a system so you don't do that. So maybe it means raising your piece of paper when you want to speak, or creating a name tag, kind of like we do in Congress, so that you don't talk over each other. But those procedures should be established at the beginning of the round after your opening statements. And then it's about being courteous, being a leader, being professional, but bringing up new and unique points and furthering the conversation. So that's panel. I look forward to researching this topic with you and watching your first panel round. If you have any questions, let me know.